On this episode of the Athletic Potential Podcast, we'll be discussing best recovery strategies, the exercises that we like to use for tennis, elbow, as well as what's new and exciting here at Athletic Potential. Welcome to the Athletic Potential Podcast, your place to come and get answers to your athletic development questions. We cover a range of topics, all related to helping you to achieve your athletic goals so that you can experience and enjoy the athletic career that you deserve. I am your host, Dr. Mike Matthews. Hey everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Athletic Potential Podcast. We're super excited that you're back and listening. Today we're going to go to our traditional format. We've had quite a few questions in the past couple of weeks, and I wanted to address a few of these questions. We seem to be getting very similar questions. We are in the spring, which means everybody's in season. So we are going to cover some of these questions that I've been getting here. So we're going to jump right in. So those that have not listened to the podcast yet, a lot of times what we do is we do question and answer from our audience, and we try to give out that information that we seem to be giving out quite a bit. So today we're going to take question and answer. So let's jump right in. Our first question comes from Jackson, and Jackson asks, there seems to be a lot of theories on how to recover from athletic events. What do you counsel your athletes at Athletic Potential to do? This is a great question. Realistically, I can tell you right now, Athletic Potential, in regards to our recovery strategies for our clients, it is highly individualized. That is by far the best way to get results. So a lot of times when we talk about recovery, we look at recovery from an athletic standpoint. Say you're a softball player, softball pitcher, and you just pitched a complete game through 110 pitches, and you're going to be asked to pitch the following day. Basically, what we look at is how do we get you from where you were before you pitched yesterday or today when you threw 110 pitches, how do we get you back to normal by the time you pitch next? And that can be a very difficult thing, mainly because a lot of times it's like right after it. Or if you have a longer period of time, it's what's the best way to get you back as fast as possible. Now, I think most people are, when they ask this question, it's how do I recover as fast as possible so that I can go out and do whatever it is that I want to do? So Jackson, you were pretty vague in your question. That's okay. I like it. Now we can answer it a little bit. There'll be some subtle nuance I'll have to add in, but that's okay. Let's talk about it. First and foremost, anytime we talk about recovery, if you've listened to any other podcast episode that talks about recovery, I guarantee you're going to hear this, and it's something that I tell everyone, and everyone rolls their eyes at me when I do it, because guess what? It's the most plain Jane advice ever. As my mentor, Dan John, would say, this is grandma's advice to you. And guess what? Grandma was, here we go. Rule number one in regards to recovery, you need to sleep. Everybody rolls their hair. Everybody, oh yeah, sleep's like, yes, sleep. Sleep is by far the most important thing you can do. I get it. It's not the fun, sexy answer, but it is what it is. You want to sleep. You've got to sleep enough. If you're not sleeping enough, then that's going to dramatically hinder your ability to recover. Now, I can hear everyone going, yeah, whatever. My game goes until 11 o'clock at night. We got to be up and rolling by 9 a.m. the next morning. And I go, okay, yeah, I get that. But let me just put it out there again. Get as much sleep as you possibly can. This means that as soon as you can, you're going to get to sleep. You want to maximize your sleep. You don't want to waste time scrolling on Instagram or social media when you know you should be sleeping. You want to maximize and prioritize your ability to sleep. I know I'm going to get a question in the comments or something like this. It's what am I supposed to get hours per sleep and all that kind of stuff. My goodness, there's so much research out there on this that I can tell you right now, the range is anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. That's a lot. It's 8 to 12 hours. I tell all of our youth athletes, anyone who is 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and who has a smaller body frame, maybe hasn't hit their growth spurt at 18, I tell them, look, you need 9 to 10. Super difficult to do. But if you can get that, you're going to recover very well. You're young and you're going to recover well because you got sleep. First and foremost thing with recovery strategies, we actually track our athletes' sleep at times to make sure that they are actually sleeping enough, or that we can find a way to prioritize their sleep better and longer. If we do that, we seem to not have to talk about too much more in regards to recovery, except for the next 2 points. And let's talk about the next 2 points. Sleep's number one. Number two, nutrition. You have to eat. So sleep is by far number one. Number two, you need to hydrate as soon as possible after the athletic event. Make sure you're hydrated. Preferably you're hydrated throughout the entire event, but if you do get dehydrated or if you feel like you could be more hydrated, you need to make sure that you're hydrating as soon as you possibly can. Okay? This doesn't just mean water, it means electrolytes. We got to get hydrated very quickly. Now, this is something that I think is fairly straightforward to do. Water exists, and they make these great powders and mixes for electrolytes, okay? I don't have a specific brand or anything like that. I've used everything you can imagine. Most of them seem to work, except for the ones that have excessive amounts of sugar. I don't like those, so don't get those. Artificial sugars just didn't seem to work well for me, and it doesn't seem to be working well for our athletes either. We stay away from those. If you're curious about what we're using, just email me, Mike at athletic-potential.com. All right, so hydration. Make sure you're hydrated. How do you know if you're hydrated? It's not how much you drink. When you go pee, your pee is the correct color. Correct color would mean not super dark and not completely clear, somewhere in the middle. If you do that, then you know you're well hydrated. This is what we do. I like simple. It works. That's what's worked for us. Okay, that's number 2, hydration. Third thing is nutrition. You need to eat. If you have a late game, all this stuff still needs to happen. And it's going to be late at night. And that's okay. So you'll figure it out. But you got to eat. You got to replenish everything that you just use. We advocate making sure that you get enough protein. And depending on the type of athlete you are, that you replenish your carbohydrate stores and have a balanced meal after your athletic event. Okay. So those are the 3 things. So I tell everybody there's a million different pieces of advice. I am not a nutritionist. So if you need specific nutritional advice, you need to find a nutritionist, sports nutrition, and go see them. We do that here at Athletic Potential. We have a nutritionist that we refer out to. And if our athletes have questions, we send them to her. She's fantastic. So that being said, all right, top 3 things you got to do to recover: sleep, drink, eat. Now, let's get into what everybody is getting after with this question. Fun things, cool things, sexy things, technology, all those kind of things that we use to help our athletes recover. I will tell you the ones that we use the most, by far the most with most of our athletes, and they seem to have the most dramatic effect, and I will try and stay in order. After those big 3 that we talked about, let's go ahead and talk about the next one. I can tell you right now that the biggest thing that we have to follow following an athletic event to improve recovery is appropriate blood flow to the areas that need it. So think, if you're a thrower, it's the arm, it's the shoulder. If you're a runner, it's the thighs, the legs, the calves. If it's your wrestler, you're everywhere. That's my point. What we like to use, and we advocate with our clients, is using some form of electrical stimulation that stimulates the muscles and creates muscle contraction that improves blood flow. Now, here is something that a lot of times we seem to have to explain, and I will try to do my best to explain it succinctly. You need muscle contraction to improve 2 things: blood flow to the area and waste removal from the area. Okay? And muscle contraction facilitates both. You can't sit there and think, flex my arm for hours on end, which is why I advocate for electrical stimulation that will just do it for you. Okay. Now, I advocate for one brand because it works. It's by far been the best in my experience, and I have tried a lot of different products here. I advocate for Mark Pro. Now, I will tell you this: if you go to Mark Pro and you put in the code POTENTIAL, POTENTIAL, you will get a discount code and you will save like 10-15% or whatever it is at the time. Okay. Yes, it is an affiliate link. I do get something for that. Full disclosure. It is by far the best product we have used in regards to improving blood flow to an area and getting essentially groceries in, garbage out of the areas that need recovery. It is easy to use. You can wear it for a long period of time. It doesn't really run out of battery unless you're wearing it for 8 to 9 hours. There are people that do sleep on them. I have personally done that, where I put it on my hamstrings after sprinting, and I can tell you right now, 4 to 5 hours on that thing, and you wake up in the morning, you're like, whoa, that makes a pretty big difference. Electrical stimulation creates muscle contraction that's non-fatiguing. We can't just use our normal TENS units or anything like that with this. Electrical stimulation units that are non-fatiguing and you can wear for a long period of time. This promotes blood flow and promotes recovery because you're getting good nutrients in the blood to the area and you're getting the waste materials from the recovery process out of the area. Mark Pro or any other form of electrical stimulation device as a non-fatiguing muscle contraction is a great investment for anyone concerned about recovery. It is worth the investment. I own 2. One of the other things we always advocate with our clients is some form of active recovery. Let's go specific on a scenario. We have a collegiate baseball pitcher who pitches 3 innings in relief on Friday night. That next day, there's a chance 3 innings, he's probably not going to go the next day, but he may end up going on Sunday. So on Saturday, you're going to do some form of a light workout or light something, including throwing, to get the blood pumping through the area. The principle shows up again, right? Blood to the area that needs recovery. Now, the difference with this one is this active recovery is movement is key here because it helps the joints, the tendons, and the ligaments as well. We like some form of active recovery, okay? We've covered a couple different things here. I can tell you right now, those right there are probably the best at getting someone to be more recovered and ready to go for their next athletic event. There are many more things you can do. You've seen the big boots that compress and decompress, promoting a blood flow response. Those things work fantastically. They're more rare, they're harder to get, they can probably get pricey. What about recovery guns, like the percussion guns that hit the muscles? Go for it. Those are fine. Any of those things are probably just fine. But remember, we're trying to move the needle the most in the shortest amount of time. So what I'm trying to do is prioritize the things that will help the most in the shortest amount of time. And as a quick review, here they are. Number 1, sleep. Number 2, hydrate. Number 3, get good nutrition or eat. Number 4, some form of electrical stimulation that's non-fatiguing, worn for a long period of time, specifically when you're not doing anything. And number 5, some sort of movement active recovery within 12 to 24 hours after your event. If you do those things right now, you're well on your way to recovery. All right. Jackson, I hope that helps. This is a very broad question. That is how we start everybody. If our athletes are missing any of those 5, we plug those 5 in. There's a million questions on this all the time. One of the things we've been using a little bit more lately has been blood flow restriction. If you don't know what it is, Google it. ChatGPT or whatever. What is blood flow restriction? You're using some sort of cuff either on the arm or the leg to restrict blood flow out of a limb. And what it does is it creates the body responds to it in ways that releases hormones and other things that help with recovery. It is something that we use with our athletes. It does require a little bit more specialized equipment, a little bit more know-how, and then to use it correctly, you need to have a little bit of some testing and those type of things done. So it's not something I tell everybody, but it is something that we definitely use in our athletes. All right, Jackson, I hope that answers your question. We're going to move on to our next one. Our second question today comes from Steph, and she asks, I was diagnosed with tennis elbow. I don't know if it's self-diagnosis, a doctor diagnosis, PT diagnosis, somebody else diagnosis, but I'll try and do my best to answer it. I was diagnosed with tennis elbow. Had it for quite some time. What are the best exercises that you recommend for this condition? Okay, Steph, this is a tough answer because you gave me just enough to probably answer this question fairly well, but not enough to answer it super well. So I will do my best. I'm going to insert some things. So hopefully I get down the path that you're looking for here. You can still use these principles. First and foremost, let's talk about tennis elbow. Tennis elbow is essentially pain at the elbow joint on the outside. If you take your arm and hold it in front of you, palm up, and you reach to your elbow with your other hand, the bone on the outside away from you the most is called your lateral epicondyle. Pain in that area from the tendons of your muscles that wiggle your fingers and flex your wrist is called tennis elbow. It's usually a product, if you've had it for a longer period of time, essentially what happens is the tendon breaks down over time. And then it gets to the point where it starts producing pain. A lot of the times these things start when you do an activity and all of a sudden your elbow is now hurting, weeding, raking. They call it tennis elbow because they saw it in a lot of racket sports, backhands and forehands. And a lot of these players were getting pain on the outside of their elbow because the gripping and moving is creating wear and tear in the tendons. A lot of times it's going to start with this pain. It's nasty, and you won't want to move your elbow because it hurts so bad. You won't want to move your wrist because it hurts so bad. And that is where it starts. I always say that starts the fire. And then what most people do is it hurts so bad they stop using it. And they hold it still. They don't use it. And the fire dies down but it doesn't go completely out. You still have some coals burning in there. And then you go to use it again because it's feeling better, and then it creeps back up again into pain. And then it goes back down again because you stop using it because it hurts. And then you use it again and it hurts, maybe not immediately, but it does eventually. And then you just go through the cycle. Better, worse, better, worse, better, worse, until either it keeps doing the cycle or you get this kind of nice low-level pain no matter what when you use it. And again, controversy on this, but not that much, to be honest. They've done quite a bit of studies on this. And I'm going to go a little bit nerd here, so I apologize. I need everybody to imagine something for me. If you've ever looked at spaghetti, uncooked spaghetti in the box, all the spaghetti noodles, and those that are watching the video, you'll be able to see my fingers on this, but you look at that box and you look at the spaghetti and everything's lined up nicely, all in a row. No holes in it. They're all going the same direction. It all looks good. Everything's with the grain. Nothing looks bad. It looks all nice and tight together. That is if you were to take a little biopsy of a tendon, look at it, it looks like a box of uncooked spaghetti when you look at it under a microscope. And you're like, yes, that looks good. That means it's strong. That means when forces place through it, it can withstand that force and transfer that force and do just fine. Over time, you wear and tear it, like with the example we just talked about, kind of good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. Say we take a biopsy of that tendon, we pull it out, look under a microscope. Now what you're looking at through that microscope looks like a bowl of cooked spaghetti. So everything's mixed together. Nothing's going in the right direction. There's holes in it. It's not as organized. It just doesn't look as good. And a lot of time with these chronic or long-term issues with these tendon areas, this doesn't just apply to tennis elbow, but golfer's elbow and Achilles tendonitis, patellar tendonitis, those type of things. What happens is that tissue becomes so weak and disorganized that anytime you load it, it hurts. But the body's kind of not trying to heal it actively because of either decreased stress on it because you're using it less, or because pain is there, or because it's been around for so long the body just maybe doesn't know what to do with it. After that long explanation, Steph, I will come back to the answer of what are the best exercises for your condition. You've got a tendon on the outside of your elbow that if you were to take a biopsy of, looks like a bowl of cooked spaghetti. We need it to look like a box of uncooked spaghetti, and we need to get our body to help us get it back to that state. To do these exercises, it's pretty straightforward. You've got to put enough stress through the tendon to get the body to respond and start remodeling or changing the orientation so it's all oriented in the same direction. What does that look like exercise-wise? Pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to basically do gripping exercise, okay, as well as some isometric, non-moving, a wrist extension exercise, okay? It is by far one of the most straightforward programs that we can give you, and you're going to look at me and be like, this is all I've got to do? And the answer is yes, maybe, and a little bit more, to be honest. With these chronic ones, you say quite some time, I'm going to guess you've had it for months, maybe 4 to 5 months. Usually, if you want good results and results that last, you're going to have to do a few more things besides exercise. But you asked, what exercise? So I'm trying to give you some exercise. Those that are on the video, you can see this. If you can't, I will do my best to describe it. So all you're going to do, exercise-wise, what you're going to do is take your hand and put it out in front of you. Arms are going to be out straight. Okay, wrist is going to be out straight. Elbow is going to be bent at 90 degrees. All you're going to do is take your other hand, put it on top of your fingers, and you're going to lift the fingers up until you can feel it a little bit in your elbow. You don't want to feel pain beyond a 3 or a 4. Hold it there for 10 seconds. And then relax. And then you're going to do it again, 10 seconds. And relax. You're going to do it again, 10 seconds. And relax. You're going to do it again, 10 seconds. Relax. That's 5 sets. You're going to do that for 5 sets. Then move the pressure from your fingertips to just above your knuckles and go to a fist and push up again. What this is going to do is target a different muscle in the forearm. You're going to do 5 sets for 10 seconds. Now you've done 10 sets of 10 seconds. For those that do this program and do it well, you're bored. And that's normal. Okay. Now you're going to do the exact same thing. So that one was with elbow bent at 90 degrees. You're going to do the exact same thing, fingers and above the knuckles again, but this time elbow extended. Okay, 5 for 10 seconds. Brutally boring program, but it's a great way to start. Now, you're going to do that in the morning. Then you're going to wait 6 hours. And then you're going to do it again. And then you're going to wait another 6 hours. And then you're going to do that program again. You're going to try to get 3 times in a day. When you're pushing up, you got to think of You could push 100%. You want to only push 30%. Like I said, you're going to feel like you're not doing much, and that's okay. And then you're going to do this program for 5 days. And then you're going to retest and see if that area feels better with some normal activity that normally produces your pain. You're not going to go looking for trouble here. You're literally just going to do, hey, I'm going to pick up my racket and see if it hurts to move it around. Or, hey, I'm going to grab the rake. Or, hey, I'm going to whatever. You're going to see if the pain has changed. I can tell you right now, if you do that 3 times a day, 5 days of the week, and your pain doesn't change, you need to see a rehab specialist because that tissue needs more to get it to feel better. If you feel like it's changing and improved quite a bit, fantastic. Guess what you get to do? You get to do it again for the next week. At the end of the second week, if it's still feeling better, start going back to your normal activities, but stay away from pain. Keep your pain levels at 3 or 10 or less. At that point, you're going to start feeling better. If you don't, or see a massive increase, you see a rehab specialist to get it feeling better. Now, again, this is for someone who's had it for quite some time. We are trying to get bowl of cooked spaghetti, go back to a box of uncooked spaghetti, and sometimes the body just needs more influence through treatment to get itself to heal. And that's why these things are tricky. Okay, there's a myriad of other reasons why they're tricky. You're going to read things, see things online about eccentrics and lengthening stretches and all this kind of stuff. We've used all of those approaches, and all of them work to a certain degree for each individual client. The only thing that seems to have worked with most of our clients is what I just told you. Light isometric contractions, 5 sets of 10, done 3 times a day, 5 days a week. It is not sexy. It is not fun. It is not enjoyable. It's mind-numbing. I'm telling you, but it has worked. So I'm trying to give you what's worked, not necessarily what everybody thinks is awesome. Steph, I hope that helps. That is how I would start it. If you're still continuing to have issues, I need you to see a rehab specialist. If you can't find a rehab specialist, or maybe you've already seen a rehab specialist that didn't fix your problems, then you need to see somebody else. We do virtual visits. We can help you get on the right track and find a good rehab specialist in your area. We have a large network now, which is fantastic. Please reach out. If you've already gone to somebody, in no way am I down talking any of the physicians or other practitioners. There are physicians out there that will tell you that you need to wear a brace in your wrist or elbow and let it rest. I have found that this has been poor advice, because what ends up happening is stress, the right amount of stress, changes the bowl of cooked spaghetti to the box of uncooked spaghetti. No stress actually creates more disorganization. There's research to back this up. I don't really like immobilization. Your body needs enough stress to improve. Now, that being said, if you are in an occupation, a sport, or whatever that does not allow you to decrease the use of your elbow to keep the pain levels at 3 or 4 or below, then sometimes bracing will help. We deal with athletes all the time. What we do with those athletes is we don't brace them to stop range of motion. We brace them to limit range of motion, and that seems to help. I'm not a fan of immobilization with this. I can tell you right now, if you haven't noticed, in the recovery side and in this, with this example, we're never using ice. It does not help. In all honesty, the only thing ice is going to do for this tennis elbow is numb it up, make it feel good in regards to pain. If you can't get out of pain any other way, including heat, then you can ice. But understand that through this process, if you ice it during this isometric routine, you will slow your progress down. If you like to ice and you're icing daily on this program, you need to add an entire week to determine if your changes are good or bad. Ice is going to slow this process down. I know I'm unpopular for that advice, and people think I'm nuts, and that's fine. The results speak for themselves here. Steph, I hope that answers your question. If you have more questions, reach out to me, okay? And if we need to help you find a rehab specialist, reach out to me. Happy to do it. Okay? All right, we're going to move on to our next question. This one comes from Kyle. We do have a few clinicians that listen to this. We have a nurse practitioner, a medical doctor, and multiple physical therapists that listen to this podcast. Every once in a while, I get a question related to my business side of it, and this is one of them. I love these questions because it allows me to explain how we do things at Athletic Potential, both to the physical therapist benefit as well as any of those that are listening. So you kind of understand what you need to look for if you have an injury or you're looking for performance recovery or improved performance. All of these concepts hold true. So here we go. This is from Kyle. Hi, Kyle. I'm a PT and wondering, what is the biggest change you have made lately in your practice? This is a great question. I can tell you this right now, Kyle. Coming from a physical therapist standpoint, we change things constantly because we're always tweaking and changing things to try and find the best way at accomplishing our results. We do that by basically going through a very systematized. We review our systems and the way we're doing things. We look for anything causing friction, like results that don't seem to be as optimal as they could be. And we look for those things. And when we find those things, we say, okay, how do we make that better? And I can tell you right now, we're constantly doing this. If you're not testing everything, we found that the more we test, the better we get globally. So if we're not testing range of motion, we're not testing strength, we're not testing endurance, we're not testing rate of force development, we're not testing power, we're not testing, what else do we test for? Grip strength, then we typically aren't doing as well as we could. Everything we do at Athletic Potential has a pre-test and a post-test. Anytime a client comes in, whether for rehab or sports performance, it's a pre-test, post-test. What we found is when we do that, we see better results. I always say what's measured is managed. And if you know you're going to get tested on it as a client, then you're probably going to put more effort into it than just adherence to it. So I can tell you right now, make sure you're testing. If you're not testing, there's very inexpensive ways to test. If you're wondering what those are, reach out to me. We use a lot of different technology to test. Tensiometers, force plates, a lot of different things. So reach out to us with that. The biggest change that we've made lately, so we were led to a fairly large group of research that looked at how the body actually heals. And it has changed the way we do things dramatically. I use a little bit of it in the answer with the tennis elbow for Steph. And we are developing protocols now that are tissue specific. The routine I just gave out to Steph for tennis elbow is a tendon loading specific program. We have a ligament loading specific program. We have a capsular loading specific program. We have a disc loading specific program now. These are big protocol changes, and it's all based on a group of research that we came across, and we found that all load does not equally go throughout all tissue. So if I put 100 pounds of force through my bicep, a certain percent goes into where the bone and the tendon meet, a certain percent goes to the tendon, where the tendon and the muscle meet, and a certain percentage goes to the muscle itself. And what we found is it's not all created equal based on what the load is, how long it's held, and what position it's in. We have dramatically changed our programming to improve tissue-specific loading. I know we are full nerds, and those that are listening that are not practitioners, I understand you're like, what in the world? Don't worry about it. We build it in. We just do it. That's why we don't explain a lot, but we are big fans of this. You asked me what's the biggest change lately. We applied this about 5 weeks ago more intensively. We saw dramatic improvements in 3 or 4 of our test subjects, one of which was me. It worked really well. I can tell you fantastic results so far. We've had 2 clients not see any change with it, which led us to believe that maybe this thing was torn. One of them, we don't know because they didn't get imaging. But the other one was like, we can't really affect that because it's torn. That makes sense. That being said, they actually did get a little bit better with the rehab. To answer your question more directly, we are now employing tissue-specific loading exercise protocols into our practice, and they seem to be having dramatic effect. Now, we have been doing this before. This isn't our first foray into this, but it is the first time that we have heavily allowed it to change our programming. We dove headfirst into this, and we've seen dramatic improvements so far. We are early and only using it on select clients, mainly throwers, both female and male. So far, so good. We're hoping to improve it even more. So, Kyle, hope that answers your question. A lot of fun stuff that we do here at Athletic Potential. I can tell you this with Kyle, you need to have a system in play so that when you see results, you're seeing results because of what you're doing, not because of some subtle nuance that changed that day. You need to be able to replicate your treatment. You need to be able to replicate multiple treatments over time so that when you measure, you are actually seeing changes from what you're trying to implement. That is something that we employed when we've initially opened, and it's something that we still use today. So Kyle, hope that helps. And that's all the questions we have for today. I really appreciate everybody coming out to the podcast and listening. Please rate and review. But it definitely helps us get out to more people. If you have questions, you can always ask. There's a button in the show notes. If not, you can go to the website, athletic-potential.com. You can ask your question there. We really want to make sure we answer all good questions, or answer all questions that we get, and make sure that we answer with good information. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen, and look forward to being with you next time. Thanks. Hey everybody, I just want to say thank you for listening to the Athletic Potential Podcast. If you do have questions for the podcast, please visit the website www.athletic-potential.com/podcast. You'll find a button there to ask your question. Please input your information and your question, and we will answer any and all questions we get. We thank you again for listening. If you do get a chance, please rate and review the podcast. And until next time, thanks.